Yesterday, on a Sunday no less, the Senate released the contents of their secret immigration bill. They've been working behind closed doors on this for quite some time, but never before in my life would I ever think that I would hear residents, let alone representatives of the United States of America, fighting against defending the United States of America. That's what this border fight is. If I could frame something that explains why I hate politicians, this bill would make the cut, pow, like mounted right front and center above my fireplace. Even after these people are getting shredded for it. Instead of saying like, oh, wow, you know what? The American people don't like this. Let's go back to the drawing board. No, they double down.
Again, this bill has a radical shift in how we're actually handling immigration, and I think people need to be able to see the whole thing. The alternatives are do nothing or to try to do as much as we can possibly get through this White House to be able to make changes in asylum rules, to make changes in what's happening at the border, add more dollars, to be able to build more wall, do all of those things to be able to do as much as we can possibly get done now, looking forward to a new president. But we can't just think about a year from now. We've got to think about 10 years from now, 15 years from now.
Sometimes this government doing something is worse than doing nothing at all, actually. But none of this bill stops the problem. And I don't care how much they say it does. If you're talking about setting the capacity at 5,000, then you have not done the fundamental job of the federal government, closing the border. I mean, like, it's super binary. Do it or don't do it. I mean, look, substitute immigration, 5,000 on anything. Substitute immigration for anything else. We're capping shoplifting at 5,000 incidents per day. Gee, thanks, guys. 5,000 rapes, murders, kidnappings, whatever. How about zero? I pay taxes for you to stop one from happening, not start carrying at 5,000. Oh, and speaking of tax dollars, the other thing that this, and a lot of people are not mentioning this, of the $118 billion in this bill, only 20 of it actually goes to our border. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly why I don't trust the damn government. They name these bills nice things, like, ooh, a border bill. That sounds great. No, 85% of this bill has absolutely nothing to do with the border. So how are you going to tell me that this is all in some national interest? Maybe that's why Senator Lankford is begging for endorsements on this bill. I mean, call me whatever you want, but here's a map of all the places that my tax dollars should go. Notice the absence of Ukraine, Israel, Europe, Egypt, Yemen, Japan, Russia, Guam, or anywhere else. That is the United States of America. Clearly, my sentiment, though, is not echoed by the U.S. Senate. Because this bill, what is also in it? Well, $60 billion for Ukraine, which is $10 billion more than the entire EU just gave them, who, by the way, is on the border of that conflict, and, we have an ocean between us. They floated a cool $14 billion in there for Israel, who seems to be doing just fine without us. But that's also what we as America do. We find a bunch of black holes, we dump money into them, and then we have articles in the press written about the success we had because the black hole took our money. I mean, that's where we're at. We measure success, or I shouldn't say we, folks. The federal government measures its success by how much they can take from our paycheck and then give to insert cause here. As if the $14 billion to the Israeli conflict wasn't enough, too. We chalked up another $10 billion for humanitarian assistance, whatever that means, for refugees of Gaza and a few other places, which I find rich, considering HUD, Housing and Urban Development, they only allocated $94 million to housing homeless and displaced veterans last year. All they did was serve the country. But refugees from another region that elected terrorists to govern them, you guys get more than 100 times more money than our veterans. I mean, round of applause for our Senate. $14 billion in there for, whatever. I mean, you know how many water bottles that is? I mean, that's what I consider humanitarian assistance. You know how much food, $14 billion? I want the receipts for this tab. Like, seriously, in a major way. Anyone else see a problem with this, or is it just me? I feel like sometimes I'm just yelling at the sky. CENTCOM is also in there. That's the command overseeing most of the Middle East. That's a Department of Defense. I don't even understand the slightest idea why there is a penny in a border bill for that, considering all of this should fall into the DOD budget. They already get and they spend more than the next 25 countries combined. But they get a cool $2.5 billion for operations in the Red Sea. Zero specifics on that one. Oh, Carl, it's classified. Not with my money anymore. Also, point of order, the Red Sea is not our border. Why is it in the border bill? Our border bill. And as if the $60 billion wasn't enough, there's another $2.3 billion for Ukrainian refugees again in there. Not a matter that should be tied to our border security. The good news is that there's only $4.8 billion going to Indo-Pacific partners, and I hereby request that they earmark to cover 15 college credits for Hank Johnson to take a geology class.
The whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
Yeah, that's a U.S. congressman. Sprinkle around another $400 million to help places of worship make security enhancements. I mean, this is a good one, considering 200 of those faith-based organizations are being funded to assist in illegal immigration in the first place. I mean, what could go wrong here? This is not a border bill. We are not proposing real solutions. Why do we have $340 million allocated to illegals? Why, in New York City, are they giving $1,000 to migrants for absolutely no reason whatsoever? Why, in New York City, are they spending 53 million taxpayer dollars in credit cards and handouts for illegals, especially when the victims of the Maui fires, which, by the way, is still a thing, they were caused by government incompetence, by the way. They only got $700 because their house burned to the ground. But, you know, whatever. The government shuts down your business during COVID. They could only muster a measly $600 per person for us in 2 years of messing around with trillions of dollars spent on other things. But if you break the law, you enter our country illegally, boom. You get more than the actual taxpayers. You see why I'm so angry? This is my problem. Like the Inflation Reduction Act. They printed a ton of money, which actually led to more inflation. They give these things fancy focus group tested names, and they think we're stupid or something. Like we're not going to ask, or we're going to look into these bills and say, hey, government, why in an American border bill does Ukraine get 3 times as much money as our actual border? Our border is not a complicated mission, despite whatever KJP might tell us.
Abbott's razor wire does not prevent. It does not prevent non-citizens from unlawfully crossing. That's not what it does. If anything, it puts at risk, it puts the lives of the Border Patrol at risk.
Actually, it does stop people from crossing. Prior to Texas's intervention, there were 3,000 to 4,000 migrants a day coming across down an Eagle Pass. Now, it's way under 100. So yes, KJP, it does work. That wouldn't be the first time she lied to us. Now, in the last 3 years, Texas has spent like $11 million securing Eagle Pass, $5 million recently, that's in the last few months, on 29 miles of border fortification. Okay, so just perspective. It would have cost a lot less, too, if the federal government had stopped getting in the way, stopped cutting barbed wire, and stopped suing them every time they did their job. So 29 miles of border divided by $5 million, okay, because that's what it costs to put the recent stuff up. It costs the state of Texas $1 million for every 6 miles of border secured. That doesn't seem that high. We got about 2,000 linear miles of southern border. 2,000 divided by 6 times $1 million. You let Texas do their thing, and they can have this whole thing buttoned up by dinner for $330 million. That's less than the smallest budget item in the entire bill. Round it up, I'd say make it an even billion. Save the other $117 billion in this bill, give none of it to other countries, and give all of it back to us in tax credits. That is how a government should represent its people. But instead, they do anything but that.